Good morning, folks. You are looking at photographs of Saturn. Cassini captured multiple meteorite impacts in the rings. There's also a good accompanying article for these photos. With the recent New Zealand drought breaking a bit, it's time to see how bad it got at its peak. Comparing a 2009 NASA Earth Observatory image with one from 2 weeks ago will reveal that change in landscape. Way out in the Pacific are the Marshall Islands, and they're in a spot of trouble. They have a wet and dry season, but the current drought is unlike anything they've seen, and some of these islands are sustained totally on rainwater. Switching to an Afghan hailstorm that took place earlier in the week, but which we are just learning of now. In 30 minutes' time, the golf ball-sized hail destroyed crops, buildings, and killed 3 people at the Kandahar airfield. Top quake of the day was a 6.2 that happened just before 7 a.m. UTC. Keep this firmly in your mind as we'll have to come back to it. We still have not gotten any more M flares, but the departing sunspots did favor us with some high C's as she began turning out of view, almost gone now in the top right of the frame. South on the left, we do see one umbra bigger than it was yesterday, but the primary active region on the sun has now become 11731. Turning the northeastern limb now near the solar equator, strongly defined umbral depressions visible on the Dopplergram, and although positive blue and negative red will appear to be mixing well at the backside on the magnetogram, the penumbras surrounding those umbras appear disconnected from one another. When we last checked, this magnetic connection held true in the same spot, but on the right you can see 8 of 10 individual connectivity points joining the footprint as opposed to only 6 a few days ago. Per the solar wind warning issued yesterday afternoon, the coronal hole stream had a second wind, and I did not expect it, ramping speed over 600 kilometers per second. Let's look back over the entire impact last 3 days, and you can see the density spike out in front 2 days ago. Then the speed ramps, but this second wave was highly unexpected. It threw a total curveball at our shields. Part of the integration was inductions all over the ULF range, and another part was another whole day of intermittent plasma penetration into the ionosphere. And finally, the geomagnetic storm was produced around 6 a.m. UTC. Now I shall quote myself from yesterday's news. Main umbral opening is essentially gone. With the eclipse tonight and the coronal hole stream weaker than expected, we'll call the last day of watch. Well, the main bit of umbral opening was indeed moving on, and we pointed out the left edge as dipping low, but at the end, in the wee hours of this morning, the field popped wide open, directly facing Earth, and did so almost perfectly in sync with the onset of the geomagnetic storm. It was not 1 hour before the 6.2 in the Kermadec Islands, and this is why I let the sun call the shots. And in fact, with Saturn, Earth, Sun lining up only 2 days away, it will be tough to insert much of a quiet period between watches, but who knows, perhaps the field will close back up and the solar wind will stabilize. This is why we watch. I'll leave you with shots of those larger C flares, some plasma filaments dancing above the solar surface, and then the full disk in hard light, X-ray, and AIA 193. Eyes open. No fear, it's 6:20 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.